People who slept with their best friend. What happened? A friend's story. At first, they were sleeping together because the sexual tension was getting too much, but he couldn't commit because he had greater priorities to take care of. Then when he realized he was at risk of losing her forever, he took the plunge and asked her if she wanted to be with him, and she teased him wondering why it took him so long. She actually helped him get through a lot of things and turned out to be the support he needed all along. They're happily married now. I'm kind of a serial best friend fucker. Hooked up with my childhood best friend right before we graduated high school. Massive mistake. Ruined the friendship, we never really got past it. Hooked up with my college best friend. No harm, no foul. A drunken night of debauchery that we laughed about for years after. Friendship only dwindled when we moved 12 hours from each other. Hooked up with one of my other best friends after college. We've been married for 6 years and together for 10. Truly the absolute love of my life. It felt right immediately. My 27M best friend, 28F, have slept together a handful of times over the past 5-ish years. After we spend a night together, we generally get breakfast, talk about it, and move on. Neither of us are interested in a relationship with each other, but we both have needs, and we trust each other to provide a safe environment to satisfy those needs. It's never really affected our relationship with each other, but it does get complicated when one of us is in a relationship. Having to explain to a girlfriend that my best friend and I have hooked up, but that it didn't mean anything beyond a release is a tough sell, even though it's true. The alternative is not revealing that, but that just seems scummy. He immediately stopped treating me like his best friend and started treating me like one of the other women he lied to about his feelings. 12-year friendship gone in 3 months. Oh, and the first time we slept together. He thought I'd be easily turned on after he vented all night about his ex like he would normally do. I wasn't. It went on for a few months, the sex was decent, but I knew she was moving a couple hours away and neither of us were interested in making that work, so it ended pretty amicably. We had a year or so of awkwardness and less contact, but that also could have been BC. We saw each other much less with her moving. I moved across the country, she got married. We're still friends, but not like we were before. It was a once-off when we were drunk 17-year-olds. We've been best friends since we were 5, so it was a bit awkward the next morning, but then become a huge joke to us. I met the man who would become my husband the next year, and he was totally okay with our history. My best friend then met the woman who became his wife about 15 years after it happened, and she forbid him from ever talking to me again. So I haven't spoken to him for 9 years, and I miss him so much. Slept with my best friend during COVID lockdowns. It then became a regular occurrence until we both started to catch feelings, and it became a bit toxic. He eventually got a girlfriend, and we stopped speaking for a few months after, but now we're back to being best friends, and I consider his girlfriend one of my best friends as well. I'm thankful every day that it didn't ruin our friendship. Slept together on and off for 3-ish years during periods when I was single, my best friend for 6 years. Towards the end, the on was almost a year. We tried to be a proper couple, but he changed when it became official, and his family hated me, mainly because I was 5 years older than him. We split up, and I ended communication. That was a decade ago. He's gay now, I wish him the best and hope he is happy. Well, I can't say it was worth it. It felt right at that moment, like maybe we realized our friendship built up to this, but afterwards felt icky. For a friendship that crosses genders, we knew too much about each other for too long. It felt like we're siblings. We decided we weren't meant to pursue that route. We stayed close friends for a couple years later, but drifted apart after for another reason. I think if we'd be in the same city, we would still be best friends. I think we agreed telepathically that it was important that it happened so as to answer any what-ifs, but just in general we treat it as a vivid dream. Only talked about it twice or thrice, and always with jokes LOL. Not even our then new partners the couple years after it happened knew or would believe us if I told them. We slept together for about 10 months while also sleeping with other people. We talk about the others we slept with and knew what each other was up to. We had lots of strong feelings for each other, but it was a whole complex situation, so we avoided dating. Then I blew him off for another guy, and he realized that it made him too upset to just remain friends, and all the complications would have to deal with it. We've now been together 12 years and married for 7 years. We have 2 awesome children. He helped me get through nursing school, nurse practitioner school, and was there for everything. We still consider each other our best friend, and have a very happy marriage. We began a monogamous relationship that has taught me what loving someone really means. After months of sleeping together and cuddling, texting constantly, and literally nothing else ever, I thought either he was gay or self-conscious. And I didn't look at him as anything past my best friend and rocking my messy life had happened. And from that moment on, I realized how incredibly attractive he actually is and couldn't think about anything else but him. That was a year ago next month, and I'm laying next to him now, smelling his skin and cuddling him while he sleeps, and I scroll Reddit. I still can't get enough of him, pensive face. I just had a really bad breakup. He was the funniest and kindest person I knew. We ended up dating for a year afterwards, but I came to realize that the love I felt for him was only platonic, and there was no real passion/chemistry. I ended things, lost the relationship and the friendship. Not long after he dated my other best friend, who he told me he hated. She was a terrible friend to me. It's been a few years now. We still have mutual friends and see each other on occasion where we get along, but we'll never be good friends again. Not a best friend per se, but one of my oldest friends. I had gone through a tough divorce, and then a year or two later, so did she. We had always been flirty, but never single at the same time. Started messaging, and it turned into a pretty intense FWB situation for a couple of months. We both needed the intimacy and knew it wasn't going to turn into anything. Honestly, it went well. We're both in relationships again and are still friends. We started dating, and I thought things were going great. At the time, we lived about 2 hours apart in different cities, and since it was the early 90s, all we had was snail mail and phone calls during the week, but on the weekends, we'd get together. Then one weekend, she came to my house. We hung out together and had a nice time, and when she left, that was the last time I ever heard from her. I tried calling her house, and after about 2 weeks of calling, her roommate answered the phone and told me she moved back to Wyoming, where she was originally from, to live with her mom. That was it. Like I said, I never heard a word from her ever again. Several years later, I bumped into a mutual friend who told me she ended married to some Arab dude, and she became a traditional Muslim wife. This made almost no sense to me because that chick was a hardcore punk girl when we were friends and was the proto-riot girl. Considering that her friend was a complete flake, I think she might have been pulling my chain, but weirder things have happened. But yeah, I got ghosted big time before we used that word to describe that. Over the years, I tried looking her up a few times online just to find out whether or not she's still alive, but her name is just common enough that I can't find anything. And she might not have any sort of social media presence under her birth name, especially if she really did become some traditional Muslim wife for some Arab dude. Ended up in a poly relationship with her and her husband for a few years. Eventually, she broke it off with me as we worked better as friends, but I stayed with her husband. They got divorced a few years ago. She's still with her other partners about to remarry, and I'm married to her ex. We all still hang out together frequently. I broke up with my boyfriend the next day and promised my best friend I'd never do anything like that to him because he's my friend and I respect him. Our first date was easy because we already knew each other so well. We moved in together after about 4 months and got engaged a year after that. Now we're about to celebrate our 4th wedding anniversary on Tuesday, and I'm nursing our 6-week-old baby while writing this. We started dating. It was wonderful, became a mistake because it meant that anyone and everyone I hung around now was my friend, and she was my girlfriend when she wanted to be both. Didn't end well. I wish it did, but it didn't. I try my hardest, but hey, there's nothing like losing your best friend and love at the same time. She is the reason I don't have female friends while I date. We were in our mid-20s, friends since we were 14, both of us fresh out of sexless relationships. So we were horny and decided to give it a shot. It was weird. In a hotel, almost got walked in on by the cleaners. My period showed up early, and I bled everywhere. I cried a bit afterwards as I was scared of our friendship ending. He was very kind and comforting, and it ended up being okay. He got me a job with his company several years later, of which I will be forever grateful, as I was very poor back then. We didn't hang out much as our lives were moving in different directions. He moved to another country, got a very powerful, well-paying job, got married, and had a kid. I have a long-term partner of 9 years. Even though we aren't in touch all the time, in our mid-40s, he is still someone I could call randomly, and vice versa, and it feels exactly the same since we were 14. We are still the same people, and I consider him someone I love very much, platonically. I'm genuinely glad he made it in life. My boyfriend, now husband, and had a drunken threesome with my best friend when we were 20. I was afraid it would ruin either my relationship with her or my relationship with him. Nothing changed and nothing was awkward. 10 years later, I'm not as close as I once was to her, but that's because after she got married, she moved away, so it's harder to stay in touch all the time. It ruined our friendship. I chose to sleep with someone who was already in a long-term relationship. She made it clear she would leave him to be with me, but I said no, and years later, they're still together. It was terrible behavior by me, and I got exactly what I deserved. Ruined a 25-year friendship for a few nights of drunken fun, and I've no one to blame but myself. I slept with my best friend on and off for about a year when we were both in our single/O phases. It was great. He got a girlfriend and ended the sexual aspect. I was super upset and cried about it. Not because the sex was so good I would miss it, but because I feared I would lose our friendship in the process. Thankfully I didn't. We're still very close. I'm happy for him, and his girlfriend seems great. I have a serious boyfriend now as well, and they're becoming fast friends. They have a shocking amount of stuff in common, and we have a double date planned soon. I sound like an asthmatic yak drowning in custard. I snore so much. A sleep study was one of the best things I have ever done in my life. I went from having something like 38 apneitic episodes an hour down to 2. I don't have those sharp shooting pains in my head. My eyesight has improved. My weight has gone down. I'm happier. And while I won't say my marriage was ever in trouble, it has made my wife happier, too. She's no longer poking me to get me to lie on my side, and she's sleeping better as well. About 5 years ago, I buried a friend who had a heart attack brought on by sleep apnea. Get the sleep study. Us too. We both started very much differently than we are now, but our connection hasn't diminished at all. I was an extrovert and hot-headed as a rattlesnake. She was introverted and a doormat for anyone who needed a target to pick on. After more than 2 decades, we've kind of balanced each other out. It takes a lot to get me to fight now, and you won't disrespect her and think she'll let you get away with it. I've taught her self-defense, BJJ, and she's a natural at it. She could hold her own against a man 80 pounds more than her if he's untrained. She still acts like a delicate little flower to me regardless. We're not really introverted nor extroverted either one now, just somewhere in the middle, I guess. If you didn't ask, I'm just kind of proud of where we've made it together in life despite the odds, and even more proud of her. Bro, same, but it didn't last 6 months. Now she's nearing 40, still single, still hot. Never been in a serious relationship from what I've heard. She would always ghost guys when they wanted to get serious, but she must just have an internal clock where she nopes out after a couple months regardless. Yep, saved our marriage. CPAP journey if interested. She was sleeping on the couch, I was sleeping in the bed. I knew it was bad, but I didn't know how bad. Went to the ENT. They gave me a lunchbox-sized device and said to wear this tonight. It comes with a heart strap, a finger thing, and a nose thing. Very unobtrusive and comfortable, compared to the usual overnight sleep study. Turns out I was having over 100 apneas a night. CPAP came in the mail. I went with the nose pillows as opposed to the full face mask, and it's been a lifesaver/marriage saver. We sleep together again, and I wake up ready to go. No coffee needed. I've used it for about a year and a few months now, and will never go back. I have a travel size one as well. When we planned the first night, we weren't going into it as if it was a real date or anything. We knew we just wanted to hook up, and I was really looking forward to it. So I guess I approached the first part of the night being a friend to my friend. In hindsight, it was a turn-off. In the moment, he needed an ear, so I listened, but it definitely her-shed the vibes. We didn't actually date or even try again until months later. I thought I could compartmentalize my friendship with him and still be a friend when he needed an ear, then maybe switch gears into some fun. But as I said in my other reply, it was a turn-off in hindsight. We weren't trying to date immediately either, so it seemed like it could have worked for a hookup. No. You learn to play guitar, then start a band to play your originals. Invite her to a show, sing your ballad to her, and while a single beam of white light encompasses the two of you, you embrace her and look deeply into her eyes while singing your truth. Nothing but darkness surrounds the outside world as your souls become locked into eternity. Then, in a sudden burst of interruption, you feel the left side of your face meeting the right side of your face in an unhealthy way as you watch your teeth slowly flying off into the surrounding darkness. Alas, you forgot that she brought her entire family tonight, and her husband has just pummeled you. 100%. My wife had sleep apnea and was sleeping 12+ hours a day, but was waking up exhausted. Had a sleep study, and she was having over 500 wake events a night. She was going delirious from sleep deprivation. Got a CPAP machine, and that dropped 10 events a night. She was sleeping fewer hours and was waking up refreshed. Life-changing. My wife had a scary moment where she passed out on the couch next to me at night, and I heard the snoring/breathing stop for roughly 10 seconds, so I woke her up. She was gasping for air, and that was one of the moments that made her decide it's time to go do a sleep study. We await the results, but there's no doubt in my mind she needs a CPAP. Please consider subscribing if you enjoyed. Love.